Nintendo Switch issued in the third Nintendo Golden Age, with new records being broken by each passing year. At the same time, the Switch experience has still many shortcomings, and signs of a Nintendo that even when taking 2 steps forward, still after that takes a step back. A perfect example of this is Super Mario Party, which received an online update over 2.5 years after the game's original release. I guess better late than never. And I would like to apply this philosophy to the Switch menu experience itself, which for the moment is bland, dull, lifeless, and more concerning, disorganized. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe plus press that notification bell if you haven't already to join our push for 300,000 subscribers. Less than 20k to go to qualify for our Switch Pro or Switch Plus games combined worth $400 after passing this milestone. And with that out of the way, let's go over updates that could greatly enhance our Switch experience in the years to come. Starting with themes and more profile pictures. Identity is key to all of us, but looking at the Switch home screen, it is easy to notice a complete lack of it there. Since the launch of the system, we have been waiting for the update that will finally spice up our Switch experience before entering any game, online service or app, literally restoring what made the 3DS experience so personal. Hopefully, it is only a matter of time before Nintendo will give us the option to decorate with themes from the biggest franchises: Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, Animal Crossing, Smash, Splatoon, Metroid, and so on. Well, that and adding more profile picture options, as there are far more options for these for our online avatars in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate than for our Nintendo account. At the same time, I have to admit that this issue, sadly, doesn't seem to be Nintendo exclusive, as the PlayStation 5 currently has no themes, which stands in stark contrast to the PlayStation 4, which was known as the themes system. Hopefully, in the near future, both the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 5 will get updates that will bring back the system themes and let us personalize our experience from the moment we press the power button. Though the Switch and PS5 missing features don't end there, but also share a lack of folders. One of the most famous German expressions is Ordnung muss sein. In English, there must be order, and well, on the Nintendo Switch's home screen there's currently none. The reason for this, call it chaos, is the lack of folders, which we had on the Wii U and the 3DS. In both cases, these were added in updates after the launch of the systems, but definitely not 4, maybe even 5 years, as is the case for the Nintendo Switch. It also doesn't help that Switch follows a horizontal one-line game order where you don't have access to most of your growing library without entering this icon, where we find an even bigger mess. Folders can easily solve this and let us organize our collections based on franchise, first party, indie, third party, genres, and so on. Order that will make life easier for the well over 100 million Nintendo Switch owners around the world in the coming years. A simple update that Nintendo has delivered before, but will improve the Switch experience and make our games more organized and accessible. Though there is also a different way to help us find our games easier if we have many of them, namely a search feature. Just write in the game you want to play and search for it. The system locates it for you and you are ready to play all your games within seconds. Simple, easy, and the opposite of the current game locating experience. Hence why we still don't have it. Joking aside, folders or this will be sufficient enough, but both would make all our frustrations a thing of the past. But what more is missing now? I will tell you what: music. More specifically, menu music, just like the ones we had on the Wii, 3DS and Wii U. But I have to admit that the reason for the lack of this particular identifiable feature might have to do with the nature of the Nintendo Switch, being a handheld first and a home console second. And as a handheld, you're likely to play the system among other people. Then again, the Nintendo DS and 3DS had menu themes, and those were exclusive handhelds, much like the Nintendo Switch Lite. Who knows, maybe Nintendo will change their mind and bring back system tunes. Harry's hoping, but there's more that can make our Switch experience even more enjoyable. Well, at least when it is connected to the internet. More apps. YouTube and Hulu are nice, as thanks to the former app, you can watch this video on your Nintendo Switch. But we need more. Far more apps. It is just that these don't really depend on Nintendo, but rather the service providers themselves. Here is hoping that over 100 million sold Nintendo Switch systems worldwide might encourage more companies to place their apps for download in the Nintendo Switch eShop. We've seen teasers about Disney+, but for now, still nothing and it is a little sad that the Switch, with its dual nature, is not utilized more as an entertainment system by third-party service providers. In other words, lack of news apps and app updates is not a criticism of Nintendo, but the next ones definitely. Like system achievements. This is probably the one element in modern gaming that Nintendo simply refuses to make a part of the system experience, as no Nintendo system to date has had game achievements or trophies that are visible on your account. In fact, for completionists there is no other way than posting to Twitter to tell the world that you actually put the time to 100% complete a game, as the current Switch game statistic only tells you how many hours you have played of each game. Total playtime, but not what achievements or trophies you've obtained within each particular game, which obviously doesn't serve as an incentive for developers to add big game-changing rewards for completion. Breath of the Wild with Hestus Gift is a clear example of that. Game achievements presented in the system itself is a possible minor game changer, and which might also change some of the rewards we get for our efforts in future Nintendo games. Once again, something Steam, PlayStation and Xbox do better and have spoiled us with, so it is a little weird that Nintendo doesn't use this as an argument to, say, make Nintendo Switch Online even better. Speaking of Nintendo Switch Online, there's a lot of wrong with this paid service, as we have detailed in the past video, but instead of complaining for another 10 minutes about the unreliable and wrong type of service, the only way to back up our saves being by paying for cloud backup and so on, I want to focus on one particular thing: extending the online SwitchFlix retro library. And then I don't only mean by adding more NES and SNES games that we all want, but also extend to include new retro systems, like Game Boy Color, Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Advance. These go without saying really. It is just that Nintendo might hold back the 3D consoles and handhelds for a different purpose, which we'll get back to in the next point, leaving us with Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance games, and keeping the Switch Online streaming service limited to 16-bits and 8-bits titles. Why, do you ask? Simple: money, which brings us over to some kind of virtual console. Probably a dead topic, unless you consider one dilemma: how Nintendo valued their post-1996 console games, aka all games released after the first decade of the NES and SNES. A perfect example of this is Super Mario 3D All-Stars, where Nintendo charged $60 for the first 3 3D Mario titles, before bringing them back to the vault. In other words, Nintendo is aware of the worth of the old 3D games from 1996 to 2011, hence why they have shown no interest to place these in their online retro streaming service. They simply still have market value, say $6, $10, or if you ask Nintendo, $20 value when sold in today's eShop, especially when it comes to GameCube titles. That was the entire idea of the Virtual Console. Sell older Nintendo games in a digital form at a lower price, but still gain a profit for each purchased game. And most likely, Nintendo categorizes their post-1996 3D games into 3 categories. The first being potential future remakes or remasters, where we already have Zelda Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD, and now Skyward Sword HD. Oh, and potentially Metroid Prime Trilogy HD. The second is the new 3DS to Switch upgrade category, where we currently have Miitopia. Finally, we have the simple port, ROM category, which are still too precious to be added to the SwitchFlix library, but also not considered for full-on remakes, widescreen or upgrade treatments. And in this category we find many Nintendo 64, GameCube and even Nintendo DS titles, which could form the basis for a reinvented 3D virtual console, dividing retro streaming to the 2D home consoles and handhelds, and individual software purchases to the up to now unavailable 64, GameCube and DS 3D titles. So there is a possible update that is being overlooked. Another one is no more phone voice chat. In other terms, Nintendo finally giving in and realizing that voice chat for a phone app is retarded, and instead bring a cheap Bluetooth accessory that allows us to use voice chat in their games, without the need of a smartphone. The stupidity of needing 2 devices to communicate when playing Nintendo games online on a Nintendo system, I don't even have words for it. 2 devices, 2 batteries, 2 internet connections. It is the most pointless voice chat system in the history of gaming, and a reason why so many of us use Discord when we play Nintendo games online. We want to communicate wirelessly, and if wired, then to our Switch and not our smartphone. Simple, easy, no apps required. The update that will easily change how we use our Nintendo Switch Online, as it will be more tempting to communicate on the Switch itself. Last, but definitely not least, we have the Nintendo Switch eShop. But you know what? This particular subject is so complex that we need to detail it in a video of its own. So be sure to leave a like on this video and share it to show that you want us to make it. If you haven't already, press that subscribe button with notification bell on, and for all notifications to not miss any of our upcoming Switch videos and qualify for our 300,000 subscribers Switch giveaway. The aim is July 16th, the launch of Skyward Sword HD, so let's see if we can get there by then. Finally, a big thanks goes to all our patreon.com/commonreal patrons, and in particular to our roller producer Charles Shash. And please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.